So I was surfing Twitter this morning and I came across a post by the user named devchart, who essentially broke down how crypto pre-sales work, IDOs, and all the rest, and pretty much how the rounds and different processes take place from the essential incubating of the actual crypto pre-sale itself all the way up to the listing on any exchange. So today we're going to go ahead and read that off since I thought it was very valuable information that should expand beyond just a regular Twitter feed. So let's get into it. So before we begin, I would like to point out just the fact that Twitter is a pretty big space for crypto. It's kind of like where the crypto community, I would say, resides. And you'll find a great amount of accounts, much like devchart, who will continuously tweet out very relevant information in terms of coins that they're looking at, or even just good tips about the crypto space that you're going to want to keep your eye on. So personally, I've actually learned a lot from crypto Twitter. I know that sounds kind of scary, but there is plenty of things to learn from crypto Twitter itself and the people within it. There are a lot of shit posters as well as people that provide actual content. So today we're going to go through exactly what that actual content is. So I'm going to break down what he was saying and give you my opinions on the matter. Frankly, I don't know too much about the actual rounds and processes of these crypto startups and whatnot, or pre-sales. So to me, it was a great read, and I'm going to go ahead and reread it now. So let's start off with an explanation of different rounds and processes that go from an idea to TGE. And when he says TGE, I'm pretty sure he means the general exchange, but I could be wrong. So, if someone does know what TGE means, I'll put it down below. So when a project first decides to launch, the first thing it's going to need, of course, is going to be money. So in this case, investors. And usually they're saying that, for these seed rounds, the first, few rounds, these are going to be reserved for big VC names, venture capitalists, FA hunters, people who are interested in fundamental analysis, which I'd almost consider myself one of those people. And those are people, of course, who managed to find the project early, as well as big pools. So the goal here, obviously, is to get funds and to build a network, right? Obviously, it's going to be a very small one because, there's not going to be that many people finding such a small coin in this huge space. But those people are going to matter in the long run because they're going to be the initial investment, seed rounds. So once they finalize their seed round and raise enough money, of course, the project in this case, they can decide to open up their own private or pre-sale rounds. Those are the ones where they focus more on marketing. Hence, they seek to give more allocations to influencers, but those are usually limited allocations. Now, this I would almost kind of compare it to kind of like how you'll see, honestly, YouTubers or content creators, maybe even much like myself, but are a lot bigger, will reach out to people like us and say, hey, here's a certain amount of money, promote our project. Or, here's a certain amount of coins, promote our project. Because after all, influencers are a dime a dozen, so why bother giving more funds to a few when you can just allocate a much limited fund to a bigger variety of influencers? Those in turn will help promote the project to their audience. I think a great example of that would be shopping.io. I'm sure you guys saw that almost every big YouTuber was talking about it, most likely because they were all paid to do so. That's not a knock, that's just the truth from what I understand. But it's a great way for people to know about the project, otherwise no one would know about it. Now, to address the biggest misconception that those are only limited to big influencers, that is partly false. Some of the biggest investors are people/teams with no clout who spend a lot of time researching, scanning GitHubs, networking to find really early projects. Now, this is going to be a great example, right? I mean, personally, I don't have any type of team who's scouting out for different projects. I do have a couple people who are interested in crypto who are constantly finding these low-key gems. I don't know how they do it. So sometimes I'll go to them. But I mean, otherwise when I'm doing it, it's either looking through Twitter, looking through the altcoin hashtags, going on, different, as they said, different GitHubs to make sure projects are legitimate, because there are a lot of these small cap coins that have great potential, but a lot of them turn out to be scams because some of them just don't have any backing behind it in terms of code. That's why looking through GitHubs are very important. Now, by the time it reaches influencers, it usually means that most funds have already been allocated and a smaller budget is left for marketing. Any large fund can get the early rounds, but only those willing to do the insane FA work, vetting, and or bring value get in. So it's almost like, it's kind of like how we already know it, right? For the most part, once you see a crypto YouTuber talk about something, it's usually too late. Because that's when, a lot of people already know about the project. And most likely people have got in, they got their seat, and they're ready to go. I think that's what a lot of these different content creators have been criticized for in the past, where, a lot of people will have already invested in the project by the time that video goes up. By the time the video is done, a lot of people have watched it. the price is already dumped. So, not to get off topic there, but that's just something that I've kind of seen people talking about quite a bit in this space, and I think that's kind of what it kind of relates to in terms of this article, in terms of this thread. One other thing to mention is that not all influencers are considered equal. Those with the best network will manage to get better allocations than others, and I can tell you that a lot of the bigger accounts now trashing private sales tried to get in and were denied. This is kind of this is kind of like that homie at the club who couldn't get in. He was really excited about getting in at first. He's ready to dance his ass off and shit. And then as soon as the bouncer denied him, he said, "No, fuck this place. Y'all can eat a dick." And everyone else who got in, no, we're chilling. Weird comparison there, but okay. So, and that's why I always say, whether it's me, whether it's DevChart, whether it's anyone that you're listening to in terms of altcoin picks and whatever, take everything with a grain of salt and do your own research. That's why you'll always hear that phrase in this space, DYOR, because people have biases based on what their experience is, right? So that is true, and I like to see that he said that. Other so-called influencers are denied due to their reputation of taking any Uniswap shill jobs and promoting pump and dumps in the past, and those more legit projects will now research and ask around before giving an allocation to an influencer. So again, this is kind of it's a lot of this stuff is related to just like content marketing. When you're talking about companies that hand out products to people to review. Like, for example, I've been looking at a lot of camera reviews. Sony will give out a camera to certain influencers, and obviously certain ones they won't. But the whole thing is that these companies, these projects are doing their research to see which of these YouTubers, influencers, content creators, whatever, which of these guys will be a good fit for our project. Because at the end of the day, yeah, if you got Joe Schmo over there shilling any little coin that gets rugged the day after, or does whatever is scammy, they're not going to want to do any type of work with them, essentially. So again, it works just like a business would. One recent example I can give was this project that offered an initial allocation to someone with a large following that was associated with shilling Uniswap pump and dumps, and they had to rescind his allocation when other influencers refused to be associated with that person. Wow, that's crazy. It's like drama. God, it's crazy. Now let's talk about IDOs. This system is 100% flawed, but let's look at the alternative. Currently, only a small amount is allocated to IDOs to keep the market cap small. Hence, only a small group can get them, which end up angering and frustrating many. On the other hand, they could implement a fair system where the majority get to invest, like the 2017 ICOs, where each project were raising 50 millions and ended up just being a money grab, as no project needed that much money to operate. And I can definitely, said a little side note there, I can definitely relate to that. I mean, there was so many, 2017 was like the ICO craze. And now that I think about it, that probably was like the biggest problem, right? That everyone was thinking it's going to pump, so everyone puts in their money at the same time. Whereas now it seems like, and DevChart's going to say it now, looks like the more effective method is to just get people slowly in, kind of like it's like a nozzle to a certain extent. Get a small amount of people in at a time, through different rounds of pre-sales, the seed round, the private sale, whatever. And at least that way, there are still a lot of pumps to be had, at least all the way up until, the general public gets their hands on it. Then it dips, and then it seems to go back up. But that's kind of, I think, what he's hinting at there. So in that aspect, smaller IDOs and a smaller market cap put a better value on the project and can actually allow it to gradually pump. However, it also offers earlier investors a really great ROI, since the project can literally 100x and still be less than a $50 million market cap. Again, great example right here, right? Right there he said gradual pump, and that's kind of the thing, right? I mean, the most scammy thing that you can think of is when someone comes out with a project, let's say the initial price is like a cent. Everyone gets in, shoots up to $1, 100x, whoa, we're winning. Then all of a sudden, because everyone got in, those same amount of people are able to get out. So they just start dumping it, and, it goes all the way back down. And I compare the two because, like you said, it's gradual instead of like a huge spike and a huge dip. So that, like he says, once the people who have bought initially in, like, say, the seed round, they're up 20x, and the pre-sale just starts, they're able to dump their coins a little bit while everyone else is kind of buying in. So it kind of offsets the dumping. It's a lot more strategic than just putting your coin out there for public sale and seeing what happens, I guess, is what I would kind of consider it. Just more strategic, that's it. Now let's address the dumping on followers accusations. This one is once again partly false. Most projects release their tokens after people started trading to actually allow the price to grow and avoid huge jumps. But Uniswap is a goldmine for bots. Oh, this is going to be an interesting one. During the first minutes of any listings, let me move that. During the first minutes of any listings, people with bots will manage to snipe the lowest price since they just need to trade from their API with really high gas, and they will manage to pump the price by the time manual buyers manage to get in. Those bots usually dump. Okay, so here what devchart is saying, and it's pretty much what I just read. Once the actual, let's say a listing on Uniswap goes live for, let's say, a pre-sale, for the most part, bots will be the first ones to get in because they have some sort of API plugin that's able to detect like right when it launches. They'll like snipe the buys, with really high gas fees, meaning that they're going to be included in the next block, and they'll be able to buy right away. Obviously, let's say a couple minutes later, when the general public starts getting in, the price will be so much more higher. The bot can then dump it, and that's kind of what it is. Ooh, that's pretty bad. And here he has an example where he's saying that the best example would be the one bot that managed to buy $150,000 worth of room and sell it for $3 million minutes later. Uniswap trading is completely unfair to manual traders, and there's literally no chance to compete with bots. It's funny. This literally reminds me of like how sneakers work. I used to be into buying and selling sneakers and Supreme and all that stuff. It's literally exactly the same. Kind of weird to see it in crypto. I mean, obviously this is a lot more money too. So in a recap, the initial pumps and dumps you usually see at the beginning are 100% from automated tools wrecking noobs who FOMO'd and bought tops. After some time, as the price continues to go lower, tokens get unlocked, and you see the price dump even more from pre-sellers taking profit. And in most projects, you see the price consolidate for a few days with smaller dumps as more people take profit and early top buyers decide to call it quits and accept their losses. This is when it's better to actually buy, as most of the selling pressure is gone. So it's kind of like the whole thing is where it's like, don't FOMO, to wait till people to get in, the pre-sellers to sell, and then you can kind of buy in that little slope instead of like buying, all the way up, right? So devchart now says, how do we improve on this? And I like that he has some sort of initial, I like that he has an offering of a way to improve it rather than just kind of speaking it out, the problems out. Believe it or not, having a sub $1 million market cap launch is actually a huge improvement over the 2017 types of ICOs. But like I previously said, only a limited amount of people will get in and not everyone will be happy, as is the world. Not everyone will be happy with anything. Another improvement is the addition of launchpad projects who offer people holding their tokens a better chance to get an allocation to projects launching on their platform. This offers more chances to non-influencers, but also require huge investments. So, TLDR, just as a whole sum up, finding allocations is not as easy as it sounds, and not everyone can get in, of course. Early investors with larger funds can get the best deal. Influencers are usually getting leftovers. IDO is better than 2017 ICO, but still unfair. And TGE and Uniswap listings are a goldmine for bots. So with all that being said, I really find that last part interesting because obviously one of the biggest things, going back to what he said about influencers dumping on their, followers, because that's been a huge topic in the space, and it's something that I've been thinking about as I've been kind of growing my channel a little bit. I mean, I still have a very, very, very small following, but I do think about what type of responsibility does the content creator hold for mentioning projects, for talking about projects, doing reviews on them, right? Obviously, honestly, I don't think, let's say BitBoy Crypto, Chico Crypto, I don't think those guys are literally making the video, dumping the coin when people get in, and that's it. I don't think that's the case. I find it very hard to believe that that's the case. Because to me, it's mainly just, that's not the issue that they're dumping. The issue is the effects of them making that video, right? So them themselves may not be dumping, but it's the people that may be dumping, the people who got into the pre-sale, got into the seed rounds, and then are dumping it because they've already made 5, 10, 20x, and are ready to get out, which makes sense. It's much like anything else would work. So, even with that said, I don't know what type of responsibilities each party should hold, but it is clear that bots have obviously made their way into, I mean, I don't even know what to call it at this point. IDOs obviously, and are able to snipe prices at a fraction of a cost. Well, snipe prices at their bottom, and make other people buy all the way at the top, and then able to dump it right after. I think that's probably the biggest problem is when it seems like the bots. Because unfortunately, not everyone's going to be happy. You're never going to get in at the bottom. And I tell people that all the time. People who ask me about getting into the crypto space, saying that, oh my God, I'm going to buy it at the high, I'm going to buy it at the low. I'm like, dude, you're never going to buy it at the absolute bottom. You're never going to sell it at the absolute top. All you can do is make an educated decision based off what's going around you. And for the most part, what he said is right. When a project first launches, they'll have the seed round, they'll have the private round, and then they'll have people, whatever, influencing it, people talking about it, right? And in this case, maybe the smart idea is to wait after an influencer talks about it, everyone gets in, and then of course it dumps a little bit, right? People who got into the top, unfortunately, they're going to lose money no matter what. When you get into the top, it is what it is. You can't do anything about it. And that's why you don't want to throw your life savings into this stuff. But the point is that, once they talk about it, people dump it, pre-sellers are already out, and you can kind of start inching your way in and potentially cost averaging. That's what I found is always the best way to do it. But at the end of the day, none of this is financial advice. I just wanted to give you guys, expose you guys essentially to this great article, or I would consider this an article. I think there's like an article version of this. Because I didn't know much about these actual pre-sales, by themselves. And this guy had a great explanation of how they worked. So shouts out to you, DevChart. He's also the co-founder of Chart Alerts IO, a swing and scalp trader. Shouts out to you, my brother. I don't know too much about you, but again, he did give me his blessing to go ahead and tweet about it. So, or at least make a video and tweet about it. So thank you, my brother. I appreciate it. And stay safe out there, guys. All right. I am not currently getting into any IDOs because most of them require KYC, and I'm just not willing to give that up. For to whomever is beyond the screen. I'd rather give it to the Winklevoss twins. At least I know who they are. Anyways, I'll see you guys in the next one. All right. Peace.